Hey, folks, a great big good morning to you. Great to have you joining us for this morning chapel. Always a privilege and honor to be able to talk to you folks over there at the college. I'm Chuck Blair, senior pastor over here at New Church Live. And what I want to talk about today is like finding God in just our ordinary lives. And the idea of finding God in the ordinary is incredibly powerful and incredibly beautiful. And I think it can open up our lives in some ways that are pretty spectacular. I think it's easy to kind of think, well, God's only in the extraordinary stuff. He's only in the stuff that's just beyond what I can imagine. And that's not it at all. You know, God is very much in just the regular rhythms of life. Now, where do we see that? Well, last week we looked at this beautiful passage where Jesus said, "Follow me," and we mentioned how Jesus is constantly saying, "Follow me." He doesn't say, "Worship me." And that following, that beautiful, beautiful following, is embedded within this passage, and it's a beautiful passage, and this is it in a nutshell. This is me paraphrasing it. It says Jesus was walking along the Sea of Galilee. He saw these two brothers out there fishing. He said, "Follow me, I'll make you fishers of humanity." So they left their nets and followed him. That was a story we looked at a little bit last week. This week I just want to bump it out a little bit more. First off, I want you to notice, like, here's Jesus doing ordinary stuff, walking along the sea. Many of us have walked along the ocean. Many of us have done that. Many of us have walked along big lakes. You know, that's just a pretty ordinary thing to do. And here are these two brothers, and they're doing this ordinary thing of fishing. That's what they did. And that's where the call kind of comes. That's where the call kind of comes. It comes in those very, very ordinary places. Now, I want to be clear, you know, when we look at the ordinary, it's important to remember that with what's ordinary, we have to remember that all of us are just ordinary people. It's you know, I've been privileged to meet some famous people. Everybody does at some point in time in their life. More and more, you know, I know these are just normal people with all the challenges that all of us have. And there's a story from Itzhak Perlman who really kind of nails, I think, that particular approach to life. So Perlman is arguably one of the greatest violin players in America, one of the greatest violinists in American history. And he was struck with polio as a young boy. So to get around, he's either in a wheelchair or he's with crutches. Here's a picture of him in a wheelchair. And Perlman was asked to play at this beautiful concert, this very big concert. He goes out, he starts playing, and he's playing on a violin. A violin has 4 strings. And almost as soon as he starts, one of the strings pop, like there's an audible pop as this string breaks and snaps. And what does he do? Like, what does he do in that moment? Well, he does something beautiful that has a lesson for all of us in terms of how we live our lives. He keeps playing, keeps playing. Down to 3 strings, but he keeps playing. At the end of the concert, he's asked by some people, like, why did you keep playing? What was that like to keep playing? And he said this beautiful thing. He said, our task is to play with what remains. Our task is to play with what remains. Boy, there's power in that, folks. Here's the secret for you. We're all playing with 3 strings. We all have those areas where it's just not perfect, and it never will be. You know, we will never all have all things. I mean, there's just a handful of people who I felt in my life really had 4 strings, and that's the way it appears from the outside. Odds are, if I got to know them better, I'd see that they probably felt they were playing with 3 strings the whole time. We're not perfect. We're not designed to be perfect. We're designed to play with what we have, whatever that is: 1 string, two strings, 3 strings. And then somehow that all helps us to get that we can find God in the ordinary, and it makes the ordinary, and here's a play on words, extraordinary. It makes the ordinary extraordinary. Now, I don't mean extraordinary as in like beyond ordinary. I mean, when we start to see God in the ordinary, and then we flip it over to here, we can start to see the ordinary all of a sudden become extraordinary. It becomes even more ordinary than it was before, and more beautiful. It was interesting when I was sharing this with my congregation at New Church Live. I had people like text me and like, well, where are you planning on seeing the extraordinary today? For some people, it was a walk. For some people, it was a conversation. For one mom, she said, hey, I'm looking forward to painting the kitchen with my daughter today. See, in many ways, that doesn't seem extraordinary, but it is extraordinary. See, this is the challenge I want to put out there to you folks. I was watching the Super Bowl, and they had an advertisement for Paramount streaming services, and they had this tagline I just thought was horrible. The tagline said live happy, you can live happily ever after, live happily ever after on your mountain of entertainment. Live happily ever after on your mountain of entertainment. No, just I don't know how else to say that. Like, no, that is not how it works. Of course, we can all have our mountain of entertainment. Of course, we can all sort of sit at the top of it. All of you are sitting on top of a mountain of entertainment that was unimaginable even 10 or 15 years ago. Literally, you can entertain yourself 24/7 on your phone, on the computer. You can find anything that's entertainment, whether it's healthy for you or not. That's not what life is about. It's not about how do we create a mountain, sit on top of our entertainment, just think, oh, we'll be happily ever after, live happily after. You won't. Like, that's not how it works. You'll be entertained forever after, but you won't be living happily ever after. Happiness comes from service. Happiness comes from connection. Happiness comes from doing. Happiness comes from friendship and love and all these big spiritual concepts that are so much, very much at the heart of humanity. And of course, we're not going to come at life. We're not going to find those things with perfection because we don't have it. We're going to have to learn to play with what remains, play with the three strings. But when we do, we get, yeah, we're all kind of ordinary. And yet we can find God in the extraordinary, because entertainment, it just feeds on being extraordinary. It just feeds on constantly being one step more than the other, one more explosion, one more this, one more that, one more little tintillating thing, and it's always trying that one-upsmanship. That's not the life I think God's calling us to. It's actually a life that, instead of always moving up that chain of more and more entertaining, it's moving into that chain of more and more, please listen carefully, it's moving more and more into that change of things being more and more meaningful. Into that change of things being more and more meaningful. And that's really the wish, not that we sit on mountains of entertainment and are entertained happily ever after, but that we face the mountains of life, we face the challenges like Perlman did, and through that we find more and more meaning in our lives, because that's how God sort of has laid out the plan. So that's my wish for all of you folks. I'm certainly wishing you all the very best over this coming weekend. And again, if there's any way like that New Church Live can be of service to you, please let us know. I'll put my email down below. You're more than welcome to email me anytime with any way we can give you a hand over here at New Church Live. God bless, folks. Have a great week. Be safe with the snow. Take care.